Texas fans just got some great news from a 76-year-old grandpa. Oh, yeah, we're talking about it on today's episode of Locked On Longhorns. Intro.
You are Locked On Longhorns, your daily podcast on the Texas Longhorns. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome in. You are locked on to the Texas Longhorns. I'm your host, BK Brad Kellner, Texas grad, Austin local, and longtime sports radio host here in the Lone Star State. Thank you for making Locked On Longhorns a part of your day every single day. We're free and available wherever you get your podcasts and on YouTube. Please like, subscribe, turn on notifications, and remember to leave a comment. That's one of the fastest ways to help us grow right here on Locked On, your team every day. Today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. Right now, new customers can get $150 in bonus bets when your first $5 bet wins. We've got some sound from Ohio State head coach Ryan Day about his team's quarterback competition, and also a few thoughts on how Texas can turn its special teams around this season. But first, did Archie Manning just put an end to one of the biggest debates in the world of football? In a recent story in Texas Monthly, actually came out earlier this week, the title of the article, quote, "The Unbearable Weight of Being Arch Manning," end quote. Arch's grandfather, former NFL quarterback Archie Manning, was asked about his son's future at Texas. The article reads, quote, "As the season approaches, many of the same people who have already awarded Arch the Heisman and the national championship are predicting that he will also be the number one NFL draft choice in 2026. Stories abound about how NFL teams could position themselves to get him, though there is no reason to believe he would leave Texas next year with or without a championship ring. His grandfather says he hasn't discussed it with Arch, but he knows his grandson. Quote, Arch isn't going to do that. He'll be at Texas," end quote. I'll read that last part again. There is no reason to believe that he would leave Texas next year. Quote from Archie directly, Arch isn't going to do that. He'll be at Texas, end quote. Sounds good to me. What do y'all think? Can we put this to bed? I'll take at least 2 years of Arch madness in Austin. Hell, since he redshirted as a freshman, he still technically has 3 years of eligibility remaining. If he wants to stay for all 3, I don't think I'll be telling him to leave. This is a conversation that so many people around the football world have had, and Texas fans are having it too. Will Arch Manning be one and done as the starter at Texas? It feels like everyone is so excited about seeing another Manning playing on Sundays that people are trying to rush him to get to the league. I don't think Longhorn fans are doing that. I think fans of every other team in college football and in the NFL are doing that. And look, I get that his grandpa giving a quote 7 months before the combine and 8 months before the draft isn't an end all be all, but there's reason to believe that what Archie Manning is saying means something. Not just because he's a family member and not just because he's the family member that Arch is named after, but this falls in line with everything that I've heard behind the scenes since Arch Manning committed to Texas 3 years ago before his senior year of high school. The plan has always been for Arch Manning to be at Texas for 4 years. That's what Longhorn insiders have reported since June of 2022 when he tweeted his commitment. That was a crazy day for Longhorn Nation. And that was Arch Manning's first tweet, and people weren't sure if it was really Arch tweeting that out or if someone was making it up. That was a bizarre day. But since that time, I have been told that the plan was for Arch to be at Texas for 4 years. Eli spent 4 years in college at Ole Miss. Peyton spent 4 years in college. Archie did the same. I would say those decisions worked out pretty well for those guys, huh? By the way, Peyton and Eli were both 3-year starters in college football. I don't think we're going to get 3 years of Arch starting at Texas, but if he follows that part of the family path, maybe we will. Now, Quinn Ewers left Texas after 2023 because he didn't. I think that means Arch is only going to start in 2025 and 2026. If Quinn left after 2023, maybe Arch would have been a 3-year starter. Look, who knows? That's just my 2 cents on this. The point is, this is just another piece of evidence that even though seemingly everybody outside of Austin wants Arch Manning to announce his intentions of going pro in January, it isn't going to happen. And I get it. A lot of people will say, I'm sure some of you have already typed this in the comments. Well, what if Arch plays so well this year that he is without question going to be the number 1 pick in next year's draft? Why would he come back to school? You can't get any higher than number 1. What's the point in not leaving? Well, my response to that has always been Arch Manning's goal isn't to be the number 1 pick in the draft. I'm sure he would take that, but that's not his number 1 goal as a quarterback. His goal is to have a long, successful career in the NFL like his uncles did. I haven't talked to Arch personally about this, but I would think winning Super Bowls, being an all-pro, and ultimately ending up in Canton like his uncles are more important goals than just being the number 1 overall pick in the 2026 NFL draft. And who's to say? Look, Arch could be the number 1 pick if he leaves next year. He could be the number 1 pick if he leaves for the 2027 NFL draft. It's not like, if he decides to come back for college for 1 more season, he's going to completely ruin his chances of being a number 1 pick. No, he could come back, have an even better year next season, and still end up being the number 1 pick. So it's not like an either or type of situation that everybody's making it out to be. But again, I think his goals as a football player go beyond just being the number 1 pick in the draft. Hey, let's say he does go out there and win the Heisman Trophy. Let's say he does lead Texas to a national championship this year. Who's to say he doesn't want to do that twice? Winning is fun. There's only been 1 player to ever win the Heisman Trophy twice. Be pretty cool if Arch is second on that list. Be pretty cool to go back to back here in Austin in terms of winning national championships. Those things are all right. I'll also add this. Go out and check the history of college quarterbacks who only started 1 year in college. Most of them don't turn out to be great NFL quarterbacks. Some guys who have tried recently, Mitch Trubisky, very high draft pick in Chicago, very bad NFL career. Davis Mills ended up being an early 2nd-round pick in Houston. Now he's a backup, very bad NFL career. Trey Lance started 1 year at North Dakota State, top 5 draft pick with San Francisco. Now he's a backup with the Chargers, I think. I think we saw him in the Hall of Fame game last week. Either way, he's been a bust to this point in his NFL career. People might say Cam Newton. Cam Newton started at JUCO before he got to Auburn. People will say a guy like Ryan Tannehill. People will say a guy like Kyler Murray. Those guys started games across multiple seasons in college football. In terms of one and done as a starter in college and ending up as a high draft pick, there's not a lot of history of guys who have been successful at doing that. Arch Manning stays in college for 2 years. He gets to develop under one of the best offensive minds in the sport, a guy that a lot of NFL teams have tried to hire as their head coach in recent years because of how good he is as an offensive mind. And he gets to hone his craft. Now we're back to Arch Manning. He gets to hone his craft against a bunch of guys in the SEC who are more than likely going to be playing in the NFL at some point anyways. And, he gets to go to college in Austin, Texas, at the University of Texas. As a guy who did that, I'd love to still be in college at the University of Texas. I had a hell of a time. I wasn't Arch Manning, and I had a hell of a time. Can't even imagine the kind of fun that dude can have. And, NIL exists too. So I think he'll be okay from a financial standpoint. Back in the day, even though Arch Manning, if he was playing college football 10 years ago, would still be fine from a financial standpoint because of who his family is. Back in the day, you couldn't make money in college football. Now you can. And Arch is making a lot of it, and he has the highest financial valuation of any college athlete in any sport right now. So I say all of those things to say that it's not the worst situation in the world being the starting quarterback at the University of Texas with the last name Manning. I'd love for Archie's comments to put this conversation to bed. And I know it won't, and y'all know it won't. You'll still see Arch's name in 2026 mock drafts throughout the season. And you'll still hear all of those TV and radio shows and podcasts talking about it, no matter how well or poorly Arch plays. no matter how many times that Archie or Peyton or Cooper or Eli or even Arch himself comes out and say that, oh, he's staying for another year, no matter how many times that happens, people are still going to be talking about it. But again, this is really good news for Texas fans. It's more proof that Arch won't be one and done at Texas, and that is a damn good thing. So shout out to Grandpa Archie, man. Appreciate that comment, and hopefully it rings true, and we get a couple of years of Manning madness in Austin. What say you? What's your confidence level in Arch Manning being a multi-year starter in Austin? Are you in wait and see mode? I'd love to hear from y'all in the comments below. All right, let's shift gears here. Let's talk more about this current Texas football team. Special teams was a massive disappointment for Texas in 2024. Will it improve this year? Jeff Banks recently said something that gives me faith that the answer to that question will be a resounding yes. We'll dive into it up next, right here on Locked On Longhorns. Oh, but first, a word for our friends at FanDuel. The summer sports are in full swing. Whether you're all about baseball under the lights, golf on the green, or high-stakes soccer action, our friends at FanDuel, well, they're the best way to make every game more exciting. And of course, football season will be here before you know it. You're following the action all the time. Why not make things a little more thrilling? With FanDuel, you can get in on the game while all of your buddies are on vacation. You can be making some money. FanDuel has different contests every single day. And when I say more ways to win than ever before, I truly mean it. They are coming up with new contests both before games and during games than ever before. So there are more ways to win than you've had in the past. If you're new to FanDuel, new customers can bet just $5 and get $150 in bonus bets if your first bet wins. That's right. It's that simple. If you're a new customer, head over to FanDuel.com. You bet $5, and if that bet wins, you're going to get $150 in bonus bets. Open the FanDuel app today or head over to FanDuel.com to get started. All right, welcome back to Locked On Longhorns, your team every day. Let's talk a little special teams, shall we? And everybody wants to talk about the offense and the defense. Sometimes the third phase of the game gets a little bit neglected. I can tell you this, last year it was hard to neglect because it was really bad. Unfortunately, it was a storyline all season long for the 2024 Longhorns, and it was a storyline that was far from positive. Texas had a bottom 15 special teams unit in America, according to ESPN FPI rankings. And look, you don't need any analytics to know how much of an issue the third phase was for the Horns last season. Bert Auburn's missed field goals, a bad punting game, no blocked punts. You had teams running fake punts successfully against Texas in what felt like every game down the stretch. A lot of holding penalties. I mean, not a lot of positive things happened with special teams last season, which is weird because Texas in the Steve Sarkisian, Jeff Banks era has consistently been one of the best special teams in America. I mean, even in 2021, when the Longhorns went 5-7, Texas was a top 10 special teams unit in college football. That was one of the few things that they actually did right. They were pretty good in 2022. They were very good in 2023. Last year, I don't know what happened, but everything kind of fell apart for Texas. So now they got to find a way to, get that back to what it was before 2024. Last week, special teams coordinator Jeff Banks was talking about changes that are being made to the Longhorn special teams unit. And he said something pretty interesting to me. He said, quote, I think we were more of a returner-based system the last 2 years with Silas Bolden and Matt Golden last year, and then Xavier Worthy and Jaden Blue in 2023. I think we probably will be more of a pressure unit this year. And, quote, that's noteworthy. I just mentioned it. Texas did not block a punt last season. That's the first time in the Steve Sarkisian era that the Horns didn't block a punt. And, oh, by the way, Texas played more games last year than they did in any of the previous 3, so they had more opportunities to do that, and they still couldn't get it done. Honestly, they weren't that great in returning either. Bolden had 1 touchdown, but it didn't come until the second to last game of the season, and that was against Arizona State. Texas ranked 38 in the country in punt return average. If they didn't play that game against ASU and that 1 long touchdown return didn't happen, then they would have been a hell of a lot lower in that category. So maybe they were more of a return-based unit. They weren't great at that either, but they really, they didn't get pressure. Again, 0 punt blocks in 16 games played, and that was different than what we had seen before that. They had 2 punts blocked in 2023. They were also 11th in the country in punt return average, too, with Xavier Worthy back there. Keelan Robinson is kind of your special teams ace. That guy was really good at blocking kicks. Then you had the fastest man in the NFL back there as your returner. That's a big part of why Texas was so good in that third element 2 seasons ago. But again, 2 punt blocks in 23. In 2022, they had 3 block punts. And then in 2021, that 5-7 season, the Horns were tied for the nation's lead with 4 blocked punts. So it's progressively gotten worse. It was 4 in year 1, 3 in year 2, 2 in year 3, and then 0 in year 4. I like that Jeff Banks is talking about Texas being more of a pressure unit because those are game-changing plays right there. I mean, you block a punt, especially if you return it for a touchdown and put points up on the board. But if you block a punt, you get that double thud sound where ball hits foot of the punter, and then right after that, ball hits body or hand or helmet of player. Then, I mean, that's a fun sound when it happens in favor of your team. And it's demoralizing when it happens if it is your team getting the kick blocked. Those are difference-making, game-changing kind of plays that can really take the life out of your opposition. I would love to see Texas do that this year. And we brought up the name Keelan Robinson a couple of moments ago. I think Ryan Niblett has a chance to be this team's Keelan Robinson. I mean, Ryan Niblett might be the fastest guy on this roster. DeAndre Moore last week, when speaking to the press, he was asked, hey, who's the fastest guy on the team? And the first name that he thought of was Ryan Niblett. Niblett's played on special teams in his first couple of years in Austin. I mean, that guy's such a good athlete. They put him on offense. They put him at wide receiver and running back. They put him in the secondary. Now I think he's back to wide receiver, but he is an elite athlete. That's not one of those situations where, the guy's just not good at all, so they just move him around because they need it. No, like this guy is that type of talent, and his teammates have been raving about him. His coaching staff has been raving about him all offseason long. I think Ryan Niblett can be that difference maker on special teams, and he can be that guy who helps Texas block hopefully a crooked numbers worth of punts/kicks in 2025. I mean, Texas has clearly made it a point of emphasis to fix the special teams with what they did in the offseason. Like, they've talked about it a lot, but I'm a big believer in action speaking louder than words. They have walked the walk too by bringing in a really good transfer kicker and by bringing in a really good transfer punter as well. I mean, Bert Auburn down the stretch last year was horrible. And Jeff Banks last week, he didn't pull any punches. He said it. Bert Auburn wasn't good. And he even said that, like, they didn't have much faith in Bert Auburn down the stretch. Like, they kind of knew that when they trotted him out there for 3, that there was a pretty good chance that things weren't going to end well. That's a tough situation to be in. So Texas said goodbye to Bert Auburn, even though he had 2 really good years in 2022 and 2023. They go out and bring Mason Shipley in from Texas State, who has had a tremendous college career. And by all accounts, he is off to a really, really good start in his first fall camp at Texas. That's one of those positions you got to wait and see, right? Like, hey, that's great. You can make 100 straight field goals at practice. What happens when it's a tie game with 3 seconds to go in the shoe 23 days from now, and you've got to trot out there and nail a 46-yarder? Well, that's where we're really going to learn about Mason Shipley. But back to the original point, Texas went out and brought in an upgrade at kicker. They went out and brought in a definite upgrade at punter. The things that I've heard about the Aussie, Jack Bomeister, coming in from Australia, I mean, it feels like a night and day difference versus what the Longhorns had with Michael Kern last season. Bomeister's a guy with, a 44.8 yard career punt average, which is pretty damn good. That number has gone up throughout the course of his college career. A lot of hang time on his balls as well. I mean, that's hidden yardage right there. Stuff that doesn't always make the stat sheet, but that's stuff that could be the difference in winning and losing games. And in Texas's case, winning and losing championships. Special teams cost Texas the SEC title last year, mainly Bert Auburn. Special teams nearly cost Texas the Peach Bowl against Arizona State last year, mainly Bert Auburn. But still, like, you had fake punts in both of those games. Like, it's been a problem. It was a problem for Texas last year. It needs to get fixed. Time will obviously tell if Texas is able to fix it, but they did the right things. They're saying the right things. It is clear that they're not happy with what that unit looked like in 2024, and it's been a focal point all offseason long to get that right for 2025. And again, I like hearing about that pressure unit this year. I want to have my cake and eat it too, right? I want to be a good pressure unit, but also when you do have to set up for a return, I want to be great at that as well. And I think Texas has the athletes to do both. But yeah, I think we're going to see a big time difference. We got 3 years of great sample size and only 1 year of not great sample size. I'm going to bank on Jeff Banks getting things turned around. What say you? Comment below with your thoughts. How confident are you in special teams this season? Speaking of this season, we are 23 days away from Texas, Ohio State. Earlier this week, Buckeyes head coach Ryan Day gave an update on his quarterback competition. Honestly, as a Texas fan, this was music to my ears. We'll let you hear from the Buckeyes head coach next on Locked On Longhorns. Final segment of a Thursday show. It is Locked On Longhorns, your team every day. Appreciate you everydayers and appreciate you first-timers for tuning in as well. We've got some sound from the head coach of Texas's Week 1 opponents. That's right, Ryan Day. Of course, they're doing fall camp in Columbus right now, getting ready for their matchup against Texas on August 30th. And they've got a quarterback competition going on in Columbus. Earlier this week, Ryan Day was asked for an update on how that battle is going. Here's what he had to say.
Yeah, no, they both have had good moments and moments where they're growing. The competition continues, but I will say that I've been pleased with the progress. We're not where we need to be, but if they continue to learn from the mistakes they're making and continue to grow off the plays that they're doing well and moving the offense and taking care of the football, then it's going to go right down to the wire. But ultimately, they got to take care of the football. I'm seeing growth for sure. I'm seeing great attitudes, great work ethic. The practices have been intense just across the board. I think they're doing a good job of leading right now. Now, where it goes here by the end of the week will be critical. This is kind of, I think Coach Guerreri said it's moving day, moving week, like it is in the PGA Tour, and that's kind of this week. So it's moving week.
It's moving week. Yeah, I need to start getting videos of these. You don't have to just stare at my face while you're listening to this sound. I'll work on that in the future. But anyways, the couple of headline grabbers, at least for me. Number one, quote, "It'll go down to the wire," end quote. So Ryan Day seemingly not close to making an announcement on who the starter will be for the game against Texas. And then the other one, I don't know if this is really a headline grabber. This is one of me just trying to overanalyze coach speak. When I hear Ryan Day say that they're growing, to me, that's coach speak for, I don't really love what I'm seeing right now, and we got a lot to work on, and these guys need to be better. And the good news for Ohio State is, well, they got 3 weeks and change to get better. And look, every quarterback has good days and bad days. Even the best of the best struggle at times. But, I don't know. To me, that's Ryan Day as an offensive-minded guy not loving what he's seeing right now. And look, Ohio State has to replace Will Howard, who had more than 4,000 yards passing and 35 touchdowns last year. Obviously helped the Buckeyes win a national championship. So he's a lot to replace. He was tremendous in his 1 year in Columbus. And the Buckeyes don't have a lot of experience in their quarterback room this season. A lot of people are asking questions about Arch Manning. And the doubters are saying, well, he's only started a couple of games. Like, why do you think he's going to be good? Let's compare Arch Manning to what Ohio State has right now. Last year alone, Arch Manning had 90 passing attempts. Julian Sayin and Lincoln Kienholz, the two quarterbacks competing for the starting job at Ohio State, they have a combined 34 passing attempts in their careers. They've also played a total of 90 snaps. So Arch Manning, 90 pass attempts last year, a hell of a lot more snaps. Julian Sayin and Lincoln Kienholz combined in multiple seasons have 90 snaps total, and they have started 0 games between them. Matter of fact, Kienholz hasn't played since the 2023 Cotton Bowl, and he was awful in that game. 6 of 17 for 86 yards, Ohio State only scored 3 points in a loss to Mizzou in that one. Julian Sayin wasn't there in 2023. He did play last year. He was the backup for Will Howard. Sayin actually appeared in the college football playoff against Tennessee. Ohio State was beating the fake UT by like 100. So they took the starters out early in the fourth. They might have the starters out in the third quarter of that one. Sayin did play in that game, 5 of 12 for 84 yards and a touchdown. But again, 0 starts, and most of his work was was in mop-up duty in games that were already decided. So because Sayin was the backup last year and because he played in the college football playoff, I feel like he is the favorite to win the job. I honestly think he has the better arm of the two, and that's kind of what I've been hearing from rumblings out of Ohio State. Keinholtz may be the better athlete. He was a 3-sport guy in high school, so you do wonder, Ohio State has some really good running backs with James Peoples and C.J. Donaldson. Maybe they want to be a run-first offense, especially early in the year in that game against Texas. Maybe they want more of the dual-threat quarterback to, keep the ball out of the air and give the Texas defense another thing to think about. I'm not sure. The last time Texas played at Ohio State, obviously in the 2005 season where Texas won the national championship, we're obviously hoping for a repeat of that this year. Texas going on the road, winning in the shoe, and then going on to win the whole thing. 2 quarterbacks played in that game. It was Justin Zwick who got the start, and he played the majority of snaps in that one against Texas. And then you had Troy Smith, who ended up obviously being the better quarterback down the road. He won a Heisman Trophy before his college career was done. But it was a 2-quarterback situation for Jim Tressel and the Buckeyes that time around. Maybe that'll be the case this year. I would think Ryan Day wants to go into the game with a clear, obvious answer to who his quarterback is going to be. And in his perfect world, whoever wins the job is going to play all 4 quarters in that game, and we'll probably play the entire season if we're being honest. But you do wonder, if their quarterback is struggling against an elite Texas defense and the Longhorns maybe build up a double-digit lead in the first half, could a change be made mid-game? I don't think anything's off the table, but I hear it'll go down to the wire, and I hear they're growing, and I hear moving day and moving week, and there's a lot to figure out. That gives me a lot more confidence in the Longhorns' chances to go steal a game on the road 23 days from now. I know Archie Manning isn't the most proven quarterback in this sport right now, but we know a hell of a lot more about him than we do about either of these guys fighting for the job in Columbus. Sometimes when teams are pretty evenly matched, it feels like Texas and Ohio State are. After all, they're 1-2 in the coaches' poll rankings. The quarterback can be the difference, and I think it's clear that Texas has the advantage at the most important position on the field. So we'll see how this thing shakes out. Obviously, a storyline, even though it's with another team, that's worth monitoring over the next 3 weeks and change. That's going to do it for today's show. If you made it this far, number 1, thank you very much. Number 2, please remember to like, subscribe, turn on notifications, and leave a comment. One of the fastest ways you can help us grow. Really appreciate y'all making Locked On Longhorns a part of your day. For your next listen, be sure to check out Locked On Bets with my man Lee Sterling and Kevin Rogers. They are your one-stop shop for all of your sports betting needs. You can find them on YouTube or wherever you listen to your podcast. More Texas fall camp conversation coming up tomorrow. Growing up. I don't know what I'm saying here. It means it's time to get out of here. We'll have more sound from Steve Sarkisian as well, but that'll do it for today's show. Until next time, horns up, mic's off. We'll see y'all soon. This is Locked On Longhorns.